Hi there, it's Anna Seewald, your host. Throughout August, I've been releasing some of our past episodes that I handpicked for you as I was taking a short break from podcasting. This is the last one in that series, and I will be back with fresh new episodes in September. If you're a new listener, hit that follow button to never miss a new episode. How to Be a Happier Parent with KJ Dell'Antonia was first released in 2018. It's episode 143, and it's a delightful, fun, and really practical episode. KJ Dell'Antonia is the author of How to Be a Happier Parent and several other fiction books. She's the former editor of the New York Times Motherload blog, the co-host of #MWriting podcast with Jess Leahy, and a mother of 4 children. In this episode, she shares her top tips for an increased sense of well-being and happiness as a parent, and particularly making mornings smooth and easy. A useful and timely episode since it's the beginning of the school year for many of us. Before we get to the episode, I want to invite you to our live event, The Art of Communication in Relationships, Navigating Needs, Feelings, and Deeper Connection. It's on Saturday, October 5th, 6 p.m. in Princeton, New Jersey. To learn more about the event, see the highlights from our past live podcast events, and purchase your ticket, go to authenticparenting.com/live podcast. Our special guest will be Dr. Yvette Erasmus. She's a psychologist, teacher, and consultant. She has appeared on the podcast a couple of times before, and I truly admire her approach. We'll have delicious food, great music, exciting raffles, engaging activities, fantastic prizes, and more. There is free parking, plenty of laughter, and good times. If you want to meet me and Dr. Yvette Erasmus in person, in real life, this is your chance. Live podcast is a unique event, and I promise it will be the highlight of your year. Head over to authenticparenting.com/live podcast to get your ticket. And I cannot wait to meet you in person on October 5th in Princeton, New Jersey. Hello and welcome to Authentic Parenting, a podcast that gives you ideas and strategies for personal growth in the practice of parenting. I am Anna Seewald, a parent educator with private practice here in New Jersey, and I help conscious moms and dads to become calm and connected to themselves and their children through trauma-informed education. With background in psychology and education, working with children for nearly 18 years, now I support parents worldwide as I believe in helping children by helping parents. If this is your very first time tuning into this show, welcome, and thank you so much for pressing that play button. This is a place where we explore the impact of our upbringing, our early childhood experiences on our life today, the way we do relationships, and most importantly, the way we parent. It's all about becoming the best version of ourselves, growing inner strengths, cultivating mindfulness, compassion, changing the way we think about things, learning about ourselves so that we can be the best parent. Do you consider yourself a happier parent? Have you ever thought about that? Do you want to know what happier parents do differently? There are 4 things, according to my guest today, happier parents do differently. Also, do happier parents mean happier kids? What are some of the biggest challenges parents face when it comes to finding joy in their families? And here is another question. What's the number one thing about parenting that doesn't make you happy? Many, many questions, but we have answers. Please enjoy this lively interview with KJ Dell'Antonia. KJ, welcome to Authentic Parenting. I am delighted to have this conversation with you today.
Oh, thank you. I am so happy to be here.
I feel like I know you, so well because I used to read the Motherload blog when my baby was little. I used to take it so seriously. I would read the comments section as well and participate in all the discussions and await when my comment would be published and what people say. So
now I have to know what your commenting name was.
My commenting name.
Do you remember?
And I don't remember. Maybe Authentic Parenting, perhaps, or I have to think about it. I think
I wouldn't necessarily, but I remember a lot of them. That was such an amazing community. Sometimes I moderated every single comment, and I miss that. And it's hard to find anywhere else because you would sort of get, the anger and the people when you touched one of the third rails of parenting, like circumcision or breastfeeding or home births, people would explode and it would kind of go crazy. But when I could keep that to a minimum, there was a real sense of discussion there. And I felt like people who were on opposite sides of things and taking it very seriously could actually talk to each other. It was so much fun.
It was so much fun, and I've known you from those times, and I've grown with you. And the book that you just wrote and that came out, I'm so excited because I was sort of part of that book, that writing process through listening to your podcast and all of that. So I'm so excited to have been on this journey with you vicariously.
No, I feel that way. I feel like it's just like this whole group coming along, and I love it. I love it.
Yes. So how to be a happier parent? Why are parents unhappy? Are we just unhappy in the United States, in the Western world? Are we overwhelmed? Is it fast paced? Oh, what's the deal with this?
I know. It's like, what is going on and how can we fix it? Right. I mean, like if we're feeling it, how can we sort of get over that? It's definitely, I wouldn't say it's strictly a Western phenomena, but it's certainly a phenomena of, it's definitely a piece of American culture. And then it extends there. I talked to Brazilian parents. I talked to British parents. I talked to Australian parents. It's, it's out there. There is a collective pressure in a lot of society right now to overparent, to throw yourself into this thing with an expectation of results instead of an expectation of experience. And that is not something that lends itself towards happiness.
Yes. You're so right. I think today we know a lot more in terms of research, child rearing, and definitely we are sort of a child-centric society. There is yoga for mommy and me and all sorts of classes, right? Most definitely the landscape has changed. I remember.
Absolutely. And yet there's this irony, right? Which is that we're expected to be very child-focused, but our society speaks in a very child-focused way, but we don't get a lot of political or cultural support for our need to do that. So we have all kinds of ways that the system is set up so that we're racing against a clock we don't set. We have to be places really early in the morning, and that is a challenge. Schools let out at 3, and very few jobs do, and that is a challenge. Summer vacation, we're just coming out of that, and that is a challenge. Parent leave, don't have it. Not in this country. And that is a challenge. So we've got this, you must focus everything on your child, but also, you don't think that you're getting any time off from work to do that because that ain't happening.
Yes, and parents have no support because of this economic situation. Most families live by themselves, nuclear
Yep.
little families, far away from their relatives and support systems. I work with parents, and oftentimes I hear such heartbreaking stories. Recently, one woman called me and she says, I have no support, no parents, nobody, even my husband is no support. And I feel like I hate mothering, I hate my children. And she's going back to work in 3 months.
Oh, so
So,
hard.
so hard, right? Yes.
Mhm.
So much needs to change in our politically, policy wise in this country. But let's focus on your book.
Well, that's the thing. So part of the reason, as I wrote this book, I'm so aware of that. I've been such a part of that conversation for so many years, and there's lots that I would love to see change, and I advocate for it. But the real question for me as I came into this book, and I felt like for my readers and my writers was, okay, great. We're so fighting for, whatever we think will improve the parental situation in this country, but that is not going to help me get my kids out of the house in the morning. How can I be happier in my day-to-day life, given that the world is what it is right now? Let's roll with it and make the best of it.
Yes, that's what I liked about your book. It's very down to earth, common sense, real. And that's what really attracted me to your book. So, what do there are happy parents out there, obviously, right?
Absolutely.
I consider myself based on your research and definition from what I can see, I consider myself a happier parent, but I work with a lot of parents who are not happy for sure. So what do happier parents do differently? What do they have? I know you have like 4 components. Can you speak about that perhaps?
Sure. And not, fair. Nobody's happy all the time. And most people are not happy in every area of parenting. And as a general rule, parents who feel happier about their role as parents, about their family life, about where they are in that, they shift from a heavier involvement when their children are little to fostering more independence as their children grow. So they've got this continuum of helping, teaching, helping a little less, teaching a little less, letting kids try it out. It helps kids to become more capable. Happier parents typically don't put their kids' everyday needs above their own. I like to say that if your kid isn't bleeding, they don't have to come first. And that's not necessarily, we love to sort of say, oh, my kids come first. They're the center of my world. And yeah, of course they are. But that doesn't mean that every vacation or every meal or every day should center on their needs. We are the grown-ups. We are uniquely able to do a lot of fantastic adult things and a lot of necessary adult things. So on an everyday level, most happier parents don't tend to put their kids' smaller needs above theirs. Happier parents also, they really look for the good in a day-to-day experience. They're able to see that these small moments when the kids aren't squabbling and everything is peaceful and maybe dinner is hot dogs and ketchup, but things are good and everybody's feeling great and this is like sort of what it's all about. They see those things and they absorb them and they take them in, and those carry us when things are a little rougher. And the last thing that I found that happier parents do is they tend to know what's really important and what is just background noise.
You did an original research. May I ask you to reveal what surprising discoveries you have you have found through the research, unexpected findings, perhaps?
Right. Well, I certainly read all the available research that's out there, and there is a lot. And I also did my own research. I worked with a professor at Fordham University, Matthew Weinschenker, and he was great. And we put together this piece of peer-reviewed research, and we worked with a firm to come up with a little less than 1,000 parents that matched the United States in terms of race and income and everything. So a real. It wasn't just a survey of 3,000 of my closest friends on Facebook, which I might add I did as well. But so we had these captive parents. And one thing that we did was to give them an open-ended question. And this was the thing that surprised me most about the research. We said this open-ended question, which was basically, what makes you least happy? And I was surprised that there was a huge consensus around discipline and enforcing rules. So one of the things that makes us least happy as a parent is, in a sense, sort of being the grown-up. We struggle with that. We don't want the responsibility. We don't want the pain. We don't want to make kids do things they don't want to do. And I don't think our parents felt that way. So that was an interesting result.
Yes. Why do you think our parents didn't feel that? I often question this myself. Why do you think we think this way? Yes, a lot of parents feel less confident in their parenting decisions and choices. They
Well,
don't want to say no. I had a client who had a baby, in fact, like an 8-month-old baby. And she goes, I don't ever want to say no to my child. And she's still, and I'm like, oh boy, this is not good.
It's not a great place to start from. No. Well, I think there's a couple of historical and cultural things at play. And one is that for our parents and our grandparents, I'm sort of trying to decide where to start. But one thing is that there was a much larger consensus around how to raise kids. There were certainly things that people argued about. There was breastfeeding, there was spanking. It's not like there weren't issues. But as a general rule, there was pretty much an agreement that if a child did something wrong, you punished that child, and then that child would learn. And that was the expectation. And when there's a set expectation like that, I think it's easier to make choices. And also, you're seeing other people around that tend to be doing the same or a similar thing. So I think that is part of it. And another piece of it is that for our parents and our grandparents, the way, like, their children's experience often was really visibly different than our own. Unless your grandparents were from a wealthy family, they might not have even been expected to graduate from high school. The high school culture in our country is actually relatively new, and other countries don't tend to have this expectation that everybody's going to go through the same rite of school passage till they're 18. And even for our own parents, our mothers probably weren't expected to excel in harder subjects. And if they were trying to do that, they were sort of a part of their own changing world around feminism and that kind of thing. When we as parents look at our kids going through school, we see, other than the internet and the digital thing, which is a whole nother question, we see a pretty similar experience. And I think we have more of an urge to sort of micromanage it because we think we know what's going on. Our parents didn't date or experience. It depends on how old your parents are and how old you are. But they might not have experienced sexuality and gender equality in the same way. Whereas we look at our kids and we feel like, yeah, I've been there, I've done that. I know what you're going through. Let me fix it. I think our parents were more focused on themselves and also just sort of they didn't have that feeling so strongly.
Mm. Were you an unhappy parent at some point?
Well, when I started writing this, I would say, yeah, unhappy might be strong, but I certainly didn't feel super happy about the way our day-to-day lives were going. My husband and I would, we would wake up, we were both working full time. We would heave children into the car. We would drop them off at various places. Then I had the more flexible schedule. Typically, I would pick them up and deal with the whole idea that, in the afternoon, you have to put them somewhere because there's no obvious place to put them while you finish doing your work. You have to figure that out. And then there would be time for sports and time for activities and time for homework and time to feed them. And by bedtime, we would just, we felt like we'd run a marathon every day and not, we weren't looking for things to enjoy in that marathon. And the funny thing was that we really actively chose the family that we had. It's not like we sort of accidentally produced 4 children. I mean, we adopted one. We had to go through home studies and we wanted this, right? This is we really wanted it. I mean, we built this for ourselves, and now every day just didn't feel like it wasn't feeling great. So that was a big question of mine, was especially in certain areas where I was really struggling, was like, why? I just don't feel like this has to suck.
Yes. What areas did you have
Oh,
challenges?
for me, it was my top three at 100% were mornings, sibling disputes, and homework. Those were the things that could reduce me to just a bubble of quivering parent jelly on the floor at any given moment of the day.
Hmm. And may you state how old your children are currently?
So now, and this is, I do say that I think part of the reason that I'm happier is that my children have gotten older and there are no more sippy cups in our lives. My youngest child is 12. I have a 12-year-old, an almost 13-year-old, a 14-year-old, and an almost 17-year-old.
Mm. So do you think parents of younger children are less happy than parents of older children?
Oh, no, it's not that. It's just that certain things do get easier. So as I look at our family life a lot differently now than I used to, and than I did when I started writing the book. And there's a lot of things I do that I do differently. But I think it's also important to recognize that there's nobody, like, when I go to the bathroom, there's nobody banging on the door. Like and those are things that take more out of you. So it's just, I think there are more small stresses. And there is also, bigger kids, bigger problems. It's not, the bigger kids don't wear you down minute to minute in the same way.
Oh, I don't know about you. Yesterday, my 10-year-old wore me down so much so that I was like, I'm going to strangle this kid.
Would you? Usually.
Usually, yes. It's more arguments, better arguments, that they can construct and have different types of negotiations with you on a completely different level.
Absolutely. It's like the song that they sing. I have one that sings the song of, why don't we live in the country and our internet is not always great. And he sings the song of, why can't we buy better internet? And it's just because he loves video games. And that's a whole other question. But, it's like we could have that conversation and it would be the exact same conversation 6 or 8 times a day. Sometimes I just have to be like, I can't. And then there was another one. I literally said to her yesterday, are you trying to annoy me? Like she was going outside and knocking on the door to make the dog bark. I mean, I can see no reason for this other than to make me insane. None.
Oh, my daughter last year wrote a book, quote unquote, 10 ways to annoy my mom. And she was confident she's going to sell and make money with that.
This sounds like a bestseller. Yeah. People are specifically going to be coming to annoy you. It's kind of a problem, but.
Yes. Well, in our home, it's funny you said I'm not going to have that. I'm going to postpone that conversation, or however you stated. I told my daughter I'm not having this conversation at all. But she keeps coming. How come my friends have Snapchat and I can't? And I can't have Snapchat, and I don't engage with explaining myself again and again, because I have given the explanation and checked feedback for knowing that she did understand my point. Yep. But yesterday I said, but why do you keep coming and asking the same thing? And what are you hoping to get out of it? She smiles and she says, I'm hoping to change your mind. I said, listen, I'm not going to change my mind. As persistent as you are, I'm as persistent too.
I have told a child that every time they come and ask me again, I'm making a mark on a chart and it's another week. It isn't going to happen. Like, okay, when I think you're ready, then we're going to subtract all this time because you're making me insane.
KJ, mornings are tough, and your book begins with the first chapter, Mornings, Why Mornings Are Hard. So what did you discover through your research? And most importantly, how can we make mornings better?
Oh, mornings are the worst. That's the name of the chapter, and that's still true. I've gotten better. But so the biggest thing that I learned about mornings, I think the turning point for me about mornings was that there was this point when I realized that we would have to get our kids up at 6 and I would go to bed really late. And so that's sort of a sleep. Oh my God, there's just so much to do here. But there was this point when I realized that what I wanted was not to get out of it. Like, it wasn't that I really wanted to like sleep until 7:59 and then jump in the car and drive children to school really fast, which totally wouldn't work because our school is not, 30 seconds away. But I really actually, I wanted to be there, and I wanted it to be a more pleasant experience for me and for them. Like, I wanted a good morning start to the day. So when I first sort of started going, God, this morning thing is just so hard. Like, it's hard enough for me to get me up and to have to drag you up, and you don't want to get up, and then, to try to feed you and you don't want to eat. And geez, could you just, I don't care if you eat, you get a snack in like an hour at school, that's fine. So I had this really sort of cranky, angry feeling about the whole thing. And we actually hired a housekeeper. So we had cleaners for a long time, and that was a great luxury, and we loved it. And then they left, and I had, this budget for cleaning, and I thought, what if I could get somebody to come in the morning? Because I had this friend that, she's a doctor and her husband's a doctor, so they had to have someone because they often weren't home. And they had this lovely woman who would sort of, she would do the whole thing. And I thought, well, maybe that's what I want. So I actually found this woman, Betty, and she's so charming and so great. And she was a morning person. She was perfectly happy to come and make breakfast and everything. And I realized that I didn't want to not be a part of that. Actually, I was surprised, but I didn't actually want not to be there, because mornings are actually pretty huge. If you have school-age kids, and especially if you work, mornings and dinners are like, that's a lot of your time together.
Yes, it's the bookends sort of to the day.
It really is.
Yes.
And there's actual research, where they put cameras in people's houses and just figured out when are people all in the same room at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And dinners that I think are number two. And other than that, you're probably not all together as a family, other than, on vacation or when you've sort of set out to be. So mornings are like a deep part of your family life. And once that dawned on me, and I think for a lot of people, it's probably maybe not such a huge revelation. That's when I realized, okay, now I need to look at this as, I want to do this. I want to be there. So given that, how can I make it better? Okay, so the number one thing anybody in the whole world can do to make morning better is to get more sleep. And I know that is hard, especially now it is not something that has not been said before, but there really is nothing, to me, there's like nothing that contributes better to your morning happiness and actually to your whole day than having gotten enough sleep the night before and having kids who also have gotten a decent amount of sleep the night before. It's just, it's everything, it's your health, it's your mood, it's your ability to interact with others, it's your patience. It refills your well. So, and that is really hard. And one of the reasons that that's really hard is that in the morning, we desperately want to stay in bed, right? In the morning, there's nothing you want more than sleep. You're absolutely, more sleep would make me happier. I'm totally all about this. Could I just stay in bed? But at night, nobody wants to go. Like, nobody wants to stop. And often that is because we get to that part of the when finally everybody's off the clock. For the kids, let's start when kids are younger. So when kids are younger, they're finally in bed, right? Mm-hmm. And now you can do your own thing and nobody is begging, and you can watch Game of Thrones, which God knows you couldn't do when they were awake. And, or you can go back to work, or you can read a book, or you could clean the kitchen, but you can actually get it, all the way clean. That there's so much that, and now it's finally, it's on you. You get to decide. And to give up that time, knowing that the first thing that's going to happen the next morning is your kid's going to be standing next to your bed going, "Mommy, get up, Mommy, get up, Mommy, the sun is shining." And you're like, it is not, it is 4:30. That is so hard. That really takes discipline, and it takes believing that next day is going to be so much better. I think you have to do it. You have to just suck it up and do it for like a month and see. Just say, I'm just going to try it. Like, it doesn't have to be forever. I'm just going to try and see if it makes things better. For me, it made things hugely better. And then with kids, as they get older, they start to run into the same thing. They're at school all day and people are telling them what to do. Then they have sports or activities, and then they have music practice or whatever. And then they have homework. And when they finally get to the part of the day when they get to choose, there you are going, time for bed. it's time for bed. And if that's the situation your kids are in, there are two things that you can do. And the first is to try to look at that afternoon and figure out, is this really too much? And to talk to the kid. Like, you're getting to 8 o'clock and that's when you feel like you finally have free time. So what we need to talk about that is that you actually have free time from 3 o'clock till, 9 o'clock, which is when we want you to go to bed or whatever. But you've chosen to spend it at baseball or hockey or play practice or whatever. So either you start viewing that as your free time, or maybe we need to make some different choices for you. If you want to have this feeling of freedom and not having to do anything anyone's expecting, maybe there needs to be 1 or 2 days a week when you're not doing. So there's this sort of deeper way of looking at it. If your kid is feeling like they never have any time that isn't scheduled, you need to help them to find their way to unscheduled time, especially if it's getting away in the sleep. And that's one thing you can do. And the other thing is to sell your kids on the value of sleep. And this is something you can start when they're really young. There's lovely research out there about, working with 4-year-olds to help them understand that when they get their rest, their brain fills and their happiness fills, and everybody needs a nightly routine. And that people would teach, these researchers would teach 4-year-olds to put their teddy bears to bed so they would understand the point of the routine. And it actually helped. And we can also talk about sleep differently. Not you have to go to sleep, but it's time to let your body rest. It's just it's your time. This is your bedroom time. This is your quiet time. And to set a better example ourselves. So, I'm so tired. I'm so glad I get to go to sleep. I'm so excited. This is my night. I'm going to get my full 8 hours. I love getting my full 8 hours. I love sleep, so it's not hard for me to talk about it in a positive way, but that's part of the problem. Kids get this, sort of you have to message around it, and that's not appealing. And then they did similar research with middle school kids, talking to them about, you know what your kid values. And some of this is a little touchy, but sleep, people who get more sleep, they struggle less with obesity. They tend to have better grades. They're happier. They get along better with the people around them. There's a lot of mental health things that can get better when you can get more sleep. So, you can look at those things with your child, and kids are kind of interested in the research. They like learning that this is important. They're better at sports. They're faster. There's all kinds of stuff that you can look at depending on what's important. But once you get to the point of getting more sleep, it's not necessarily like, for me, I could get 10 hours of sleep and I still don't want to put my feet on the ground in the morning. Mm-hmm. But I've learned that if I've gotten my full amount of sleep, when I put my feet on the ground and get up, then I'm okay. Whereas if I don't get my full amount of sleep, the next 2 hours are just like, it takes me like 2 hours to wake up. I'm never going to want to get out of bed in the morning. It blows. It's just true. That's who I am. But anyway, that was a very long answer about sleep. What else can we do in the morning? Oh, I know a great thing. And this is kind of what we talked about with happier parents. It feels like there is so much at stake in the morning, right? Because your kids got to get somewhere on time and they got to have all their stuff, and probably you have to be somewhere as well. And it's, the clock is ticking and you know what time you have to leave, and it just all feels so huge. The parts of it that have to do with your kids, those are not really that huge. Now, you getting to work and clocking in, that's a different question. And every adult life should be structured so that they can do those things. And if their kids end up getting left behind, oops. I mean, you can't leave a 3-year-old, but if your sixth grader is not ready to go and you leave them once or twice and they miss a full day of school, that sounds crazy. It sounds extreme. They're probably not going to like it. I'm all over the place because I get so excited about this topic, but if you have a bus and you can actually arrange your life so that you leave before the bus, they might screw up a couple times, but your kids are going to figure out how to get on that bus. They really are. I swear. Yeah, it's gonna happen.
What if they choose to stay home and say, oh, great, the bus is gone, my mom is gone, let me play some video games and stay home?
You probably have to fix it so that can't happen. I mean, if you've got that kid, you need to make the house boring, but honestly, I mean, there are parents out there who have done this. It's a whole school of parenting. Actually, and you think your kid would rather stay home, but it's off after like a day. And then they're like, wait, I'm not at school and I'm falling. But I think that there are probably kids who are exceptions to this, but I think they are much fewer and farther between than we think they are.
I think what I hear you say is we need to give our children more responsibility in the morning to take care of themselves and get ready, and have faith in that instead of creating this dependency and doing things for them and prompting them and creating this dependency cycle. And,
right.
and they never learn to do it on their own because we took the responsibility out of it. And so the sense of autonomy that the child may have now is gone. And why should I do it? Right? Becomes the question. But
right.
If a child feels responsible because it's his day, it's his routine, it's his life, especially if you have multiple children like you do, you have 4 children. I think this is huge.
It really is. And it's a twofold process. There's what the kid gets out of it, which is huge. But it's also really important for us as parents who want to be just sort of happier to really let it be the kid's thing. Realistically, if your kid gets to school without her lunch, she's not going to starve. Probably someone will give her a snack, but even if they don't, she can go till 3. That should have absolutely no bearing on your day's happiness. It really, and take the lunch is easy. If they forget their homework, it's okay. It really is. Even if it's like this, monster project that they've been working on for months and it's due today, and now they're only going to be able to get half credit. That sucks, and you could feel bad for your kid, but this should not really make you unhappy. It's okay.
Yeah, that's part of life, yes.
Right? These are not tigers.
Yeah, no, these are part of life, and they need to face the natural consequences of their own actions so that they can grow more responsible and capable. If a parent is there always rescuing and fixing and solving, that's a disservice to a child. Unfortunately, yes, you may feel good about yourself as a parent, but it's not about you, In the long run, it's about your kid.
Well, and also, I think our kids need to understand where their homework sort of fits in the giant scheme of life importance, right?
Okay. Yes.
It's important to them. It really is. But, it's not more important than you getting to work on time. It's really, honestly, it's not even more important than your yoga class. It's just not. It's their, it's their thing, and it's important to them. And grown-up things are important to grown-ups. And there's sort of a whole lot that happens when your kid thinks that their schoolwork is the most important thing. They get this really inflated idea. So that can put a lot of pressure on a kid. That's like a totally separate thing. And they get this, it's sort of inflated idea of where they fit into like society. And we need to sort of earn the point when sort of our work is more important than some things that belong to other people. And most 6th graders have not hit that point.
Yes, and we need to let our children feel the frustration of their own mistakes and the choices that they make. Like, I never check my daughter's homework or her backpack or any of that. I'm very independent, hands off. That's not my territory. It's her responsibility. If she goes to a sporting practice, she's responsible to bring her bag and have everything ready. If she didn't pack whatever, if she goes to a tennis practice and she didn't bring her tennis racket, well, c'est la vie, my dear child. I can't make it better. I can, but I don't want that for you. Then I'll be I don't want to do this disservice to my child.
Right. We can say, I'll bet you could ask to borrow a racket. And I would also say that I don't fake any of this either. I know parents who sort of get really into this. It's your thing, and it's not my job to remember your lunch. And they will, if they see a kid forget their lunch, they won't say anything. That's not really what I'm talking about here. When it comes to that, like, imagine what you would say if your older kid walked past his younger sibling's lunch and intentionally didn't give it to them. That's not, we're a family and we can help each other out. We don't need to sort of silo ourselves into this is your thing and this is my thing. It's just a question of priorities and kids understanding that is their thing. And I'm going to hand you your lunch, sure, but if it was your job to pack it, I won't run behind you shrieking, pack your lunch, pack your lunch, pack your lunch. There's a process here in which we're sort of all a happy family together. It's not like there are these hard and fast rules around what you do and don't do. It's really just about being realistic about whose job stuff is. And the lovely thing about mornings is that all of those massive, massive failures that, get your child super upset. They accidentally go to school in their slippers. They forget whatever, they're late or whatever, have just no effect on anything else ever in the whole. They just don't. So It feels big, but it's not, which is nice.
Yes. So besides preparing the night before, what else can parents do then in the morning? I think I've never met a family who has mornings easy. Of course, I work with parents who have challenges. I never work with parents, why would I work with parents who have it all together, right? They don't come to me. But I've never met, even in terms of friends or neighbors, a family who has it all, easy and smooth and nice in the morning. So it's always.
I once met a family that ate a sit-down breakfast together every day. I don't know whether everything else was smooth and easy, but they did do that, and I was very impressed. I feel like if you're doing that, you probably don't need. Well, you need maybe you need the other chapters of my book. Yeah. Well, so actually, that's another interesting point, is that one of the ways for mornings to be happier is for us, mornings tend to be an integrated machine. It's, it's not till your kids are much older and you're lucky enough to have multiple cars or buses or whatever that everyone's sort of going in their own directions without having to work together to get out of the house, right? So one of the greatest things that you can do for yourselves and your kids in the morning is not to absorb somebody else's problem and mood into your own problem and mood. So if you're getting ready to go out the door and you've pretty much got your stuff together and you're vaguely on time and things are okay for you, and a kid is stomping around shrieking hysterically about any of the various things that they could be, to not join into that, to not take that on yourself and stomp. You can help look for it. That's not what I'm saying, but don't grab the mood. Right? Just keep in your own happy place if you can. Or if you're in a grumpy place, try to keep that in your inside. You don't have, I used to do that. And I probably still do this occasionally, but sometimes when I'm really having a bad day, I need other people to also have a bad day.
Yes. Misery loves company.
Exactly.
Right?
So I might yell at them, or I might insist that something is their fault, or, and our kids really do that. And if you can not take that personally in the morning, it's so much better. I mean, just today, we are not back to school yet. So it's still summer mornings. And I had, like we said, I live on a farm, and our farm chores are distributed so that only one child has to get up every morning with me usually. And the child I needed this morning, I woke the child up and the child said, ah! And I said, yeah, okay, you got 10 minutes. Ah! And about 3 minutes later, I said, hey, do you want me to wait for you? And you can ride, we can ride down together, because we drive down to the barn, and even though it's right here. Or do you want to walk? Ah! And then I thought, well, now this could lead me to a point where the child is upset because I left them. So I went and made sure that the child could hear me. Hey, I'm happy to wait. Ah! And I ended up waiting, and we got down there. And by the time we got down there, the had stopped. And it's a beautiful day, and the animals are lovely, and, nobody enjoys the chore part of everything, but it just sort of ebbed away. But yes. If I had as I am so tempted to do, if I had gone with, is not a good answer to a question, and you can't talk to me like that, and, you're just making my day work. If I had gone that route, the
Yes.
whole chore morning would have been.
Yes, detachment. Yes, what I'm hearing you say is detachment. Yes, I say that in my household too. I even explicitly say, I won't let your mood spoil mine. I want to have a great day today. And
That's a great thing to say.
and my daughter says that now too. When, let's say, I'm having a bad mood, she starts to detach herself also, because let's everybody be responsible for their own feelings, and not involve other people into our misery, because moods are temporary, right? They come and go and they change. So why wallow in something that is going to change the next minute? Like when your child went outside and probably felt the sunshine and the fresh air, and it was a different experience. You can also perhaps point out to those positive things as you walk out the door, not in an educational way, but in a matter-of-factly way. Wow, look at that! Look at this. Do you smell the air? Wow, I can smell this. And so when we engage our senses in a mindful way, it changes our present state, right? So instead of focusing on creating a power struggle, responding to the child's, I don't want to go, detach yourself. I think this is so powerful. That's why I want to highlight this part. Many parents create a power struggle based on this kind of interaction, and that becomes a problem that didn't exist in the first place.
Right. And it's huge. I mean, I think it's just important to remember that, mornings, because we're on mornings, they're kind of hard for everybody. And, you can just let it be hard. It's okay. Your kid has to get up, right?
Yes.
They have to get their stuff together. They have to get out the door. Those are the things that basically have to happen. They don't have to be happy about it.
No.
And you don't need to insist that I don't even think you need to insist that they be pleasant about it. You probably need to insist that they don't curse at you or whatever. Absolutely. I mean, there are lines, right? But by and large, go ahead. You just have to help me. You don't have to like it. You don't have to smile, whistle while you do it. I can't do this without you. So here we go.
But also, I want to highlight another point. I don't know if you speak about this. I don't want parents to feel like they need to be this cheerleader. Come on, let's go. We're going to do it.
No.
Right? No. Let's be real. Yes. And let everybody have their own moods and just move. I think also what's important sometimes is validating how the other person is feeling is huge, can make a huge difference in that person's being, right? Usually children, let's say a 4-year-old says, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to, or a teenager. Usually what do parents do, KJ?
Yes, you do. You'll be happy once you get there. Come on. It's going to be great. Or, well, you have to go. And there's so many things you can say. You can say, yeah, I know I didn't want to get up this morning either. Or, oh, I know some days it's really hard to do something you don't want to do, but everybody has to do it. Or even, you don't have to say anything at all.
Yes.
You don't have it in you to respond cheerfully to the Yes, you can walk away. The point is not to feed it. Don't feed the beast.
Yes. When we feed into those kind of small instances, children learn to magnify them. They become hyper-focused and self-centered. And it's not a healthy thing for them or for us.
Plus, it can turn you into the bad guy, right?
Yes.
Suddenly you're the one making them get out. It's not just circumstances or life or the alarm clock or whatever, but now they've got something to fight against.
Yes. Let me ask you this then. I usually play with my clients too. Let's say your husband woke up and said, I don't want to go to work. I hate the meeting that I'm going to be in. Some kind of unpleasantness about expected things of his day, right? What would you say? What is your response usually? Do you cheer him up? You sell the idea that he's going to have a great meeting,
Come on. That's not what we do. We either just go,
You listen, right? You probably listen. You offer some validation or something of that nature. But somehow we're different with children. That's what I want to say. Yeah.
I think we feel like we just feel like we're responsible for every aspect of their day or their lives. Like it all has to end if they're, we feel like we have to fix it or we feel obligated to join it or whatever. And we really don't.
Yes. I think when I hurry up my child door, come on, you're going to be late. Come on, you're going to be late. She looks at me. She goes, the more you say that, the more I'm going to slow down.
Yep.
It's just like it has the opposite effect usually.
No, it absolutely does. And sometimes what'll happen in our family is I'll hear one of the kids doing it to the other. One of the perils of being part of a large family is that one kid can make everybody late for school. And I will say that occasionally I leave that kid behind.
Mm-hmm.
I am able usually to make an arrangement for that kid to find another way for school to get to school. It might be 2 hours later, but I've left them, and they don't. This is not a popular choice, so that's happened. But you can make your sibling will be wandering around after you, yelling, "You're making us late! You can't believe you're not ready yet!" And you just hear that, and you're like, "Man, that would not help me." I would want to hit that sibling. So
yes, definitely. Yeah. So KJ, thank you for sharing the tips to make our mornings easier. I think that your suggestions are very realistic. I like that. And just knowing that everybody goes through struggles in the morning is comforting.
It really is.
Yes. In your book, you have 10 mantras for happier parents. I won't read all the mantras because I want people to get your book. But what's your favorite mantra or mantras that you can speak about a little bit?
I feel like my favorite changes from day to day, but one of my favorites is what you want now isn't always what you'll want later. So I'm going to give a chore-related example. So sometimes at night, dinner is over, and all you just want the dishes off the table, right? You just want this to just happen, and the kid is saying, "No, I'm not going to do it," or what, and finally you're just like, "I'm just going to put the dish. I'm just going to put it in the dishwasher. I'm just going to do this myself. I'm not going to." And what you want in that moment is probably not what you're going to wish you'd done tomorrow or a year from now. This is maybe not the best example, but so often it's tempting to take an easy road, right? To pick up the child and shove it into its clothes and put it into the car seat or whatever, when what you really need to do is maybe stop and listen to what's wrong, or, repeat that the child needs to put their own cup in the dishwasher until they actually do it. Parenting is like, it's a long road. There are no shortcuts.
No, there aren't. And I asked over 2,000 parents what makes parenting challenges, or define parenting with one word. And several people said it's repetitious.
Yeah, it really is.
And it could be really draining, especially in the early years when we're teaching responsibility, teaching children to put their things away. It took me 6 months, I think 2 years ago, to teach my daughter, when she comes from school, bring your lunchbox into the kitchen, empty the contents, and put your lunchbox there. And it was not easy, right? But
right.
This year, she does it without prompts, without anything. It takes time. It's not going to be like magically in one instance, you're going to ingrain some skill or habit in children.
Or even a week, or even 30 days. It's kind of amazing how long it takes. And you sort of have to just separate those things. Like, there's what you want to happen, and there's how you're going to get it there. And you have to accept that you might not enjoy the getting it there.
Yes. So keep your eyes at the bigger picture, and remember that we're raising adults. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, absolutely. We don't want to raise perfect children. That is not the point. We're raising future adults.
Yes. Any parting words as we wrap up our conversation today?
I just want to go back to what I said at the beginning. Most of us, I suppose there are exceptions, we wanted this, right? We wanted our families. And for the most part, we can have these lovely modern lives. Sometimes things go wrong. I mean, sometimes you don't need to be unhappy when you've had a death in the family or someone is truly ill and things are rough. But most of the time, that's not where we are, right? Most of the time, we're in this moment of ordinary life where the problems are fairly ordinary and the joys are fairly ordinary. And that's when something does go wrong, this is what you're going to want back. So let's take a minute to look up and look around and treasure it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here today, sharing your stories, your sense of humor, your amazing tips and insights. I truly enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. This was great. Thank you so much for having me.
And that's it for this episode of the Authentic Parenting Podcast. I want to hear from you. What's the number one thing about parenting that doesn't make you happy? Well, first and foremost, based on what you have heard on this episode, do you consider yourself a happier parent? Also, what makes you the least happy? Let's continue the conversation in our private community. So if you're not in it yet, you can easily join by going to authenticparenting.com and you can see a yellow button that says join the community. I would love to have you there. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, rate and review, and of course, send me a voicemail. And as always, connect to the present moment, to yourself and your children. Until next week, I am Anna Seewald. Thank you so much for listening.